Okay, good morning, everybody. So first off, just a quick introduction. My name's Alex. I'm Leader's National Trainer. I predominantly look after Ubiquiti and Ubiquiti training. So today I want to be chatting to you guys about Ubiquiti's access control products. It's a relatively new entry to the segment for Ubiquiti. That being said, the products I feel are quite matured for how old they are. But essentially, we're going to just do a little bit of a review on the types of products that they offer, how we would implement these products in your business environments, how they would connect to different doors, and how you would set up different levels of access, as well as how people would use the readers, the different authentication methods they can use, and essentially how that ties into their mobile phone and how they can unlock doors, etc. So that's the outline of what we're going to be covering today. And just as a starting point for the guys that are new to the Ubiquiti ecosystem, so just as a quick recap of the type of products that Ubiquiti do. So Ubiquiti is obviously very well known in the outdoor and indoor wireless space. Most places you go to will have Ubiquiti access points, including the room you guys are in at that moment. There's a couple of access points scattered around there as well. So Ubiquiti is very popular in terms of the access points. I think it's the #1 seller globally, and you'll pretty much find them everywhere. What a lot of people don't really associate with Ubiquiti or don't think of is the other components that stack onto that. Ubiquiti are trying to be a holistic provider of IT solutions and essentially give you a complete range of products within the Ubiquiti ecosystem. So just FYI, you guys are welcome to stop me at any point in time if you have questions. Alternatively, I will be taking questions at the end as well. So in terms of the products that stack in this Ubiquiti portfolio, there's a couple of different product ranges. So the first one there is Protect. Protect is Ubiquiti's surveillance product offering. So Ubiquiti is a big player in the surveillance segment. It's more meant towards the SMB market segment. You still have players at the very top and then players at the very cost-effective side of it. Ubiquiti is perfectly in between those, mid-market segment, and essentially they produce solutions to basically give you very quick and easy access to surveillance. I think the biggest differentiator with Ubiquiti and surveillance is just the speed at which you can access your video footage and export it as well. I always thought it was a bit of a niche, but Ubiquiti is a big player in this market segment now, and their products are phenomenal, especially with the AI features that they're adding onto it. I haven't seen anyone else implement AI as smoothly as this, so I think it's a big selling point. And then obviously the main thing that we are talking about today is their access products, their access control. So there's a couple of different products within this product range. We're going to look at the different models. It's still, like I said, a relatively new segment to Ubiquiti, although they indicated to us at the Ubiquiti World Conference that it is one of their fastest growing segments. So it is a very important part to the equation. And then Ubiquiti obviously does Talk as well, which is more on their VoIP portfolio. And then those are the ones I think people know about the most. Ubiquiti also does other solutions as well. So in terms of digital signage, Ubiquiti does PoE powered displays. Really cool because you don't need to have power at every point where you're connecting one of these displays. Ideal for businesses where you're trying to display video content or something like that throughout the business. So it's a very cool product in that regard. And then a relatively new segment to Ubiquiti as well is their mobile routing. And this is to compete with, you guys will know the big brands out there, but basically 4G, 5G solutions. The first product offering that they have is going to be more of an industrialized version. The version shown on screen is an older version, which we're not really going to do. And essentially the ruggedized version is going to allow you to connect 4G in remote areas and essentially take benefits of 4G connectivity. Very cool product coming out on that front as well. And then EV stations, I think pretty much everyone does EV stations these days. Although Ubiquiti is still quite unique in the way that they do their EV chargers. A very common scenario that we come across is a lot of electricians looking to put down EV chargers. They're getting a request from the customer. It says they need to put down an EV charger because an employee has a EV or the boss has an EV, and they're looking for a simple way to get that done. With Ubiquiti, it's part of the same ecosystem again, and ties into the rest of the business as well. So, I mean, when someone is off work or when someone is on leave, you can set up schedules for when people are allowed to access these things. Or if you just want to say people are only allowed to charge during work hours, you can do that as well. You can connect it directly up to the mains power of 15 amps, or you can hardwire it in as well, especially if you're an electrician. It makes that nice and easy. And then, again, it's a simple interface. If you can manage a Ubiquiti access point, you can manage a Ubiquiti car charger. It's very simple to do it. And then Ubiquiti is still very well known in the outdoor wireless space. I think a lot of people come from that side of the industry, and it's a big market segment for them. So going on from there, I think the main attraction, which we're all here for today, is just talking about the access control products. Ubiquiti has a very unique implementation of this. So they say here access reimagined, and it really is reimagined access control. Most people who have dealt with access control, traditional access control, will attest to the fact that it's quite painful to work with. It's typically very hard to program. A lot of it is command line based, and it was really a technology that was kind of stuck in the 80s. There are today a couple of other modern solutions as well, but still a ton of legacy access control systems floating around, and you guys will probably come across them in your customers' businesses, or you might even have this in your own business. And what this really means is there's a massive opportunity for us to upgrade and modernize the solution to bring this technology into the 2020s. So the core idea behind this is to simplify the user experience. As you can see, there's a myriad of different readers, access control points, etc. And essentially, they want to streamline this user experience to simplify the way that you interact with it and to modernize the interfaces you're interacting with. The biggest benefit to me, just straight off the bat, is the ability to do most of this via PoE. So Power over Ethernet means you don't have to get an electrician out every time you want to deploy a door reader. That to me is a massive benefit. Again, depending on the style of deployment that you're doing, there's a couple of different options for that. It also has a very simplified network setup. So if you're an IT technician and you've set up a Ubiquiti access point before, you can set up Ubiquiti Access Control. It is the same interface. You manage it through the same remote gateway. And essentially, you control this behavior through an interface that you already know, even though you haven't worked with it before. Many people struggle in dealing with legacy stuff these days. It's a common trend that we're picking up. A lot of these legacy door controllers or access control systems are tedious to work with because they have old protocols for controlling and programming the key cards. The technology that's in that is quite difficult to understand, and that's really what Ubiquiti is trying to move away from. So we still need a way to interface with analog equipment. That's an important thing. And we essentially need to be able to do stuff like unlocking doors through mag locks, strike locks, etc. We need to interface with alarms and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And those typically are legacy. You don't get a PoE powered mag lock, for example. That's all legacy based. So we need a clever way to interact with that. Skipping a step forward, I think the main thing that we need to impress on people is just how easy it is to actually work with this interface and to work with these products. So what you're seeing on screen right now is the access interface. If you've set up the access points before, you'll see it looks almost identical to the interface for that. And it's really a very easy place to work with. So UI or Ubiquiti Access comes in two different flavors, or they apply to two different segments, let me put it that way. And that comes down primarily to door-based access control, so traditional access control like you would think of. And then you also get a new offering from them in their intercom space, which is more meant for residential use in apartment complexes, etc. So the door-based access control, you can think of a million different applications for that. Everything from the front door to the server room and anything in between, any type of door you want to control, where the intercoms are more meant for residential use, as I said before. So most important, again, same interface. You can easily set up the equipment if you've set up anything else. And to me, also the most important thing is that this is all one integrated solution. A very big pain point that you typically have in IT generally, and especially when you're tacking on access control, is the multifaceted interface that you have to work through. So typically you have a interface for your networking equipment. So you've got a interface to set up your access points and switches, and that's all and well. And then you have to go to a separate NVR, log into that to manage your cameras, and then to a separate access control system to go actually manage your access control. And the same thing for VoIP, and the same thing for everything else. These fragmented systems or disjointed systems are really painful from an IT perspective. And especially if you're a IT administrator for a small company where you might not be experienced with like dealing with multiple interfaces at the same time. Ubiquiti simplifies this massively. I always say I can get people up and running in Ubiquiti within about 10 minutes, and most people, just by clicking through stuff, will be able to navigate these interfaces. Very easy to do. So the interface, as you're seeing it on screen, provides a quick and easy way to track employee attendance. You can essentially see how employees are coming into and going out of the building. You can see which doors are most frequently in use. You can see how people are coming and going. In this instance, Jerry here is leaving the building 56 times, and you can get a insight into how people are coming and going, which doors they are going through, and you can also do time and attendance reporting. So it is a little bit more basic. It's not a in-depth time and attendance system, but you can export that and integrate that back into a full time and attendance system as well if you want to. When I mean integrate, I mean more just like exporting a CSV and pulling it back into that. One thing with Ubiquiti is the ecosystems are fairly closed loop, so they don't necessarily have APIs to integrate with other stuff. On some products they do, some products they don't. But Ubiquiti's logic behind this is they want stuff to be fast and easy. And as soon as you start making it open to third-party protocols, like in surveillance, you would have OnViv. There's a couple of those protocols that are universal in nature and allow you to connect different things up to it. The problem with those protocols is that they make things slow, because you suddenly have to support more and more products outside of your skill set. And that is exactly what the problem is. They want stuff to be fast and easy to use. And as a result of that, it is more of a closed ecosystem. To me, as a reseller selling this equipment, I would love that. A closed ecosystem means that I have one pane of glass, and secondly, my customers tend to stay a customer for life. Once they buy Ubiquiti Access Point, they'll go, okay, I've got an access point, and now I'm going to move on to the switching side of things because I need a switch to power it. And then I need a controller to go along with that to control all of this. And then I need, let's say, for example, surveillance, etc., etc. I can keep stacking products onto this solution, and it just means my customers stay in the same ecosystem. It's a very easy upgrade. In addition to just seeing employees come and go, you can also pull video footage of the event. So you can see live as people are coming and going, or you can pull it after the fact as well. So there's also just a finite amount of control over doors and access periods. So you can granularly very much control when people can come and go, and really drill down into like the holiday periods, leave periods, etc., to make sure that people can only access the building when they're supposed to. Another important thing, obviously, is guest access control. You want to have guests to be able to access the building. A couple of ways they can do that. They can either just rock up at the building, swipe the screen, and let the reception know. Or alternatively, you can even be proactive in this. And if you're inviting people to your building, you can send out an invite ahead of time. And as someone receiving that invite, it's very simple. You can either scan a QR code, or there's a couple of different access methods around that as well. So it's all fine and well seeing it on the interface side of things, but what does it look like from an employee trying to access the building? In terms of the access control methods, there's a couple of different ways you can actually open the doors. The preferred and probably easiest way to do is the one you're seeing right now, where as an employee, you literally just tap the doors button. You select the door that you want, or in this instance, this person's just got the front door. Tap it and the door unlocks instantly. This is part of the UID app, and this is another big improvement that Ubiquiti is focusing on. We're going to talk about UID a little bit more later on, but essentially it's a way for you to onboard employees with a couple of clicks and give them access to everything in one go. So employees can get access to this as part of the identity management application, and basically the administrator just rolls that out to everyone. As a sneak peek here, so Ubiquiti have mentioned this in the UWC. They are looking at implementing facial recognition as well, as many of these readers do have cameras on them. I don't know which products this will apply to yet, or if it's a separate product range, or if it's part of the same one. Time will tell, but to me that is very exciting. Instead of having a traditional access method, being able to just walk up to the door and it knows who I am. So there's another alternative way to get access to the building. You can also just tap with NFC on your phone. So if you just want to get into the building, just quickly tap it. Although, to be honest, a lot of people will probably still prefer the legacy method of doing this, which is just a normal key fob. And Ubiquiti do sell these key fobs as well. So many people are old school in that way, myself included, probably. I prefer to have this attached to my keys. It's fairly rugged, and it's a pretty useful tool. So if you're buying a kit, a Ubiquiti starter kit, this is typically included. And alternatively, you can buy this separately and use that as an access method. Another access method that you can do is access cards, more traditional style access cards. The benefit with these things is they fit in your wallet. They don't have to go attached to your keys. Chances of losing my keys are larger than the chances of losing my wallet, or vice versa, depending on the type of person you are. And it depends on which one's best suited to you. So they can access it via cards. These cards are also programmed on the readers. They don't need special external programmers like you would traditionally have with old access control systems. We have to get a separate reader to basically program those cards. Alternatively, if they don't want to do that, or if this is a person just coming into and out of the building for a short period of time, so let's say a person's doing contract work and they only need to be there for a month, you can also give them a PIN code. So you can just go, hey, your PIN code is 1234, and that's what you use to access the building on a day-to-day basis. You can even, if you're a guest, use a QR code when you're going to visit that building to actually get access to it. A PIN code could also be very handy for guests. So basically you can tell them ahead of time, hey, your PIN code is this, and that PIN code also expires after a period of time. So you can say that if they've visited the building, after that it should expire that PIN code, or alternatively within a set period of time. So obviously that's the different access methods, and there's also a couple of different reader options. So depending on the style of door that you're connecting this to, you would choose different readers for that. So obviously there's a need for readers to actually authenticate against. It needs to interface with the back-end systems, and there's many different flavors with this as well. It comes down to primarily the type of door and what access methods you want to implement. Do you want to access PIN codes, or do you want to access or set up access for NFC only, for example? So as a front door, you would typically have a reader that is capable of doing everything: PIN codes, NFC cards, etc. So everything you're seeing on screen right now. It also should have a screen so people can see if they're just walking up to the building. Firstly, which building it is, so it can advertise your company name. It can show some basic information, and it can also show you the different access options. And of course, you want that button on the front screen to go press it, and it rings through to reception or whoever you designate. With Ubiquiti and the control that we have over this, we can set it up so that multiple users can be rung at the same time as well. So let's say if your receptionist's not there and you want someone to be able to open the door, you can have the CEO of the company be able to open the door as well. So for external readers, so stuff going on the outside of the building, a full reader is probably the go. For internal doors, they tend to be a little bit more basic. Perhaps you're just looking for NFC. It depends on what you want to go for. So as a quick overview of the different reader types, so we've got the G2 Reader Pro, G2 Reader, and Reader Lite. We've got a little bit of a comparison. You guys are welcome to take pictures of the screen as well when we show that. But basically, these readers are meant for different use cases. So the G2 Reader Pro is the second generation of Ubiquiti access control products, and essentially the idea behind it is to be outdoor capable. The first generation wasn't great. You had to put it under cover, etc., in order to make it waterproof. Second generation is very mature. It is fully ruggedized. It is weatherproof, etc. So the Reader Pro is very good for installing outdoors. And the one thing that I have to comment on and praise Ubiquiti for is they nailed the width, because a very common problem that you face when you're getting to a door is that the readers are quite wide, and then you have to cut out a piece of the wall or cut out a piece of the door frame in order to fit this reader. The G2 Reader Pro, despite what it looks like on screen, it looks massive. It's actually pretty small and it's very narrow. I initially questioned that design choice, but after installing it, you'll see why they've done it that way. And this also has an integrated camera as well. So the G2 Reader Pro, it has that big camera at the top. It is NFC capable, and you've got that nice big screen to ring through. So I just have to comment on this as well. I get a lot of comments from people saying, oh, this is similar to the likes of Ring or these other types of door readers that you see in residential use. The limitation with those readers is that they are not meant for access control. They are good for seeing who's at the door, but they're not good for opening the door. And that's where Ubiquiti is different to that. So with this, you can still trigger the door to open up and integrate it with a lot of the other systems. And you can get time and attendance information, which you wouldn't be able to get on those types of products. For the internal doors, you would typically prefer something that is either touchless. So if, let's say, for example, on the outside of the building, you'll have the G2 Reader Pro, nice complicated screen. And on the inside, when people want to leave, they don't want to have the same experience. They don't want to go, I have to type my PIN code again. You just want to have a touchless, just quickly wave your hand in front of a reader and be able to leave the building. And that's where the G2 Reader and G2 Reader and Reader Lite comes into play. Basically, they are both support NFC and both support touchless control as well. So you can just swipe your hand in front of it and will unlock the door. Alternatively, if you want to use them for basic areas, so let's say, for example, you have a server room and only your IT administrator should have access to the server room. The reader light and the reader or G2 reader is perfect for that, because you don't need to have that person have a full screen to type in PIN codes, etc. You just want them to have an NFC tag, tag in, open the door, and get in. It's perfect for scenarios like that. The main difference between those two readers is that the G2 reader is more ruggedized, more meant for outdoor use. They are IP55 rated. It's weatherproof if you have it under overhang. And the reader light is more meant for indoor use. So server rooms, touchless exits, etc. That's typically where you would use those readers. So that's all fine and well. We've seen the different reader types. That's a fairly limited product range, and Ubiquiti keep things simple on purpose. So they don't want to be like other providers where you have a million different flavors, all of them slightly different to each other, but no real differentiator. So that is all the normal access control readers. We're yet to take a look at the intercoms as well. Obviously, we need a way to connect these readers back to our network and still be able to interface with the analog systems. So the readers themselves don't have analog interfaces. The readers themselves purely have a normal Ethernet port on them. What controls the doors and interfacing with analog systems is the controllers. So again, there's a couple of different flavors for how you want to do this, and we're going to see each individual one, but these are called their access hubs. So very basically, they are the things that connect to your multiple doors and allow you to essentially unlock them, interface with the alarm systems, interface with a whole bunch of different stuff. So what you can actually interface with, as a quick example, is you can interface with doors, alarms, push buttons, motion sensors, door position sensors, wet contacts, dry contacts. So if you're looking at this, it is well thought out in terms of what it needs to typically interact with on a door. And these are all the things you would typically encounter. So motion sensors, for example, I'm seeing someone wave as they. What is the question? Sorry, I didn't hear you guys.
I had a question with regards to the back of the readers. So there's no relay. There's no relay to control the door lock in situ next to the door.
No. So it's not directly on the reader itself. Ubiquiti have moved all of the legacy interfaces, all the 12-volt control, the triggers, etc. All of that is on the hub, the access hubs. So
if something was wired in proximity to the door to unlock it, you'd have to rewire a connection to that door lock back to that hub, essentially.
Yeah. So essentially, yes. So the hub is typically the central place for connecting that reader to. So it connects the reader and all the other interfaces as well. So it would be normal Ethernet through to the reader. Most of these hubs are pretty clever in the way that they actually pass a PoE through as well. So it's responsible for powering the reader and giving it Ethernet connectivity. And then just a normal Ethernet cable going back to that. And then from the hub itself, you would go, I don't know, 12-volt contact to your mag lock or strike lock or something like that. Most typically, these readers are fairly close to the door. It depends on the type of reader that you're going for. So you can either go for a reader like this, which is more meant on a 1-to-1 ratio with the door. We would have one for every door. And this would typically be fairly close to it. And you can see all the contacts along the side there. Cool. Any other questions? All good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so continuing on. So basically the access hubs are designed specifically to allow you access to the building and control these different systems that you would typically need to interact with. One thing that I need to say here is that obviously the control of doors is extremely important, because if people can't leave the building and the building's on fire, it's a big problem. So these things need to be enterprise grade. They need to be well thought out, and they need to have a lot of redundancies in them, and Ubiquiti have done that as well. So we will show that a little bit later on, but you can see an example of that now where they're showing an external battery that's capable of connecting to this as well. Ubiquiti recognizes that not everyone's going to buy an entire hub per door. Some people will do that because some people will only want a reader for their front door, for example, and that's fine. Ubiquiti have solutions for that. Alternatively, if you want to power multiple doors or connect multiple doors, they do have scalability as well. So we're going to look at the different hubs now to show how they can scale up. So the simplest version of this is the normal access hub. And basically the readers that you're connecting to this can be pretty much any flavor. So you can go for G2 Reader Pro, a normal G2 Reader, Reader Lite, depending on what you want to go for. So this is the most basic one. It's for controlling pretty much a one door scenario. Although depending on what you're connecting to it, you can potentially connect up to 2 doors if you want to. But the idea behind it is that it's one device for everything. So don't worry about the model numbers. We'll show them again on screen later on. And basically the idea is, as we see here, you would have the Ethernet cable running to the hub. It's powering the hub via PoE. And then from the hub itself, it can trigger the strike locks, mag locks, etc. It'll interface with all the alarm systems, doorbells, etc. And then it will also connect through to the different readers. So we've got 2 readers connected to this. This is a very common scenario where one is an entry reader and the other is an exit reader, and it's providing power through to that as well. No separate power requirements. And then it also has 2 additional ports at the top, and you can use that for connecting cameras. So if you want to tie this into your surveillance solution, you can do that. Basically, it's all in one Ethernet cable going back to your switch. So I mean, from the switch to the reader, you can do up to about 100 meters on PoE++, depending on the quality of the cable, and it simplifies getting power to it. Another thing I would typically recommend is buying these things in their starter packs. So essentially it comes with 2 readers, the access hub, and then a couple of key fobs as well. And these are typically quite well priced as opposed to buying the components separately. Most people will find that perfectly fine as a complete door control solution because it's an entry reader, exit reader, hub, key fobs, and then all the other access methods you would prefer are still possible: PIN code, NFC, etc. So if you guys want to get an NFC version of this, in other words, for your own internal use, you can reach out as well, and we can look at special discounts and discounted prices for that. But basically, these are meant to be a full system that you buy out of the box. If you're looking for a bit more scalability, if you've got more doors that you need to control, Ubiquiti has an enterprise version, and this can allow you to do up to 8 doors and basically have the same functionality in terms of connecting alarms, all the different legacy interfaces that you need to work with. This is typically installed more centrally, so you would have this, let's say for example, in the server room rather than the like at the door itself. And to me, what's important about this is, firstly, I have multiple doors that I can connect up to it, and also this kind of functions like a little built-in PoE switch, because you can connect AC to it directly, so normal AC power. It's got a built-in power supply, and then you've got the Ethernet ports at the top to power the readers. So you can connect up your different readers, etc., and then obviously your dry and wet contacts respectively. It can do up to 12 volts, 1 amp on the wet contact, and then or powered contacts is the correct term for it. And then it also has passive 12 volts inputs as well. So if you want to just trigger things, you can do that. If it's a big mag lock that requires a lot of power, you can do that with an external power supply to that mag lock, and then this basically is just the triggering device for that, if you wish. So another important part to this is this has the ability to integrate with your backup power solutions. And basically, you don't need to have a full UPS to do that, although you can do it. It actually has a very standardized PP45 connector at the bottom of that, which means you can wire that up to a battery. So the voltage you're wanting to achieve with this will typically be, speaking at a correction here, but I think it's 48 volt. So you'll need to have a couple of batteries in series and maybe a step-up converter, but it's going to allow you to do that power backup. The limitation here is still the 100-meter Ethernet cable runs that you can do. So if you're looking to power the readers, etc., typically needs to be within about 100 meters of the actual controller. There are devices to get around that. So you get mid-span PoE injectors that basically just you connect PoE wherever you're at, or you get different ways to do it. You can even do a solution where you convert it temporarily to fiber and then hop back to Ethernet with power at the end of that as well if you wish. So dry contacts will typically go further depending on how you power it, and it really depends on what you want to do with this. Other readers need PoE++ in, whereas this one just straight directly to AC power makes it a lot more flexible. The caveat with the other readers is that PoE++, a lot of the switches do not natively support PoE++. If you're encountering that problem, you do get Ubiquiti PoE injectors that are capable of doing PoE++ as well. So you don't have to go buy an entire switch. You can just buy a PoE injector and it'll do the same thing. And basically you get all the stuff shown here as well. So you get all the hardware to mount it. Comes with a template. It's nice and easy to install. And basically you can just hook up everything to there. Recently, Ubiquiti's also started looking at more building automation style controllers, and they have a hub that's also meant for elevators. This is another one of those things where people want access control in elevators, and if you look at hotels today, most of them require you to use an NFC card to get access to certain levels. The problem is, like in buildings where you have, let's say, for example, multiple businesses in one building, administering that access control can be difficult because anyone can lose a card. And if you're used to old access control systems, losing your NFC card or your tag is probably the worst thing that can happen to you. Security is going to grill you. It's a big effort to give you new access to that building. With this, essentially, it follows the same logic. You can have a reader at the top or bottom of the elevator shaft. It has up to 18 relays, so you can do up to 18 levels, 18 floors. And basically it can, through the NFC reader that's built into that, allow access to different levels. It has inputs that you would also need for elevators specifically, so stuff like car position inputs to see where the car is at. It has emergency inputs as well, so if you press the emergency button, you obviously want to be able to speak with someone or let them know there's an emergency. And it can also do stuff like the car status, so you can see if the car is up, down, if it's stopping, if it's full, if the doors are open or closed, etc. All of that is reported back through this controller. And if you have a very long run, so typically if you have an 18 floor building, it's going to be quite difficult to do that with a PoE cable. And you do actually get PoE extenders that are capable of doing that, where it's a fiber connection pretty much. And the other thing as well is a very common thing is to have a camera in the elevator, because people get up to all kinds of crazy stuff in elevators, and to see where people are getting on and off, etc. It's always a good opportunity to have them as a kind of captive audience. And typically the best places to see the person's face and see who's coming and going is in an elevator, because it's a confined space and they're forced to be relatively close to the camera. And with Ubiquiti, you can have the cameras as part of the elevator as well, as part of the hub as well. So the big request that Ubiquiti has received over the last couple of years is to tie this back to your camera system. So basically, if someone taps in at the door, to both get the video footage from the reader itself, as well as any connected cameras. So if you have any cameras that are linked, so let's say on the outside of the building, you want to be able to timestamp that video to go, he checked in at this specific time, and I want to look at the video footage that coincides to that. And Ubiquiti now supports that as well. You can see if someone's tagged in, the video footage is linked back to the camera automatically. And like I said, these building management systems or access control systems need to be rugged. They need to be secure, and they need to be resilient in case of emergency. So Ubiquiti has a couple of emergency modes as well. So you have emergency lockdown, emergency evacuation as well. So let's say, for example, I don't know, if something's happening in the building, someone is running around and doing stuff they're not supposed to, and you want to lock all of the doors so that they can only be confined to a certain space. It has lockdown mode for that. It's the click of a button. You can even do this through your mobile phone as well. So if you're a security guard, you're doing the rounds and you'll see something going down and you want to quickly just be able to unlock the doors or lock the doors, your phone is the way to go. Alternatively, you can do this as a normal user. The other mode that it has there is evacuation mode as well. So let's say there's a fire, you obviously want to get people out of the building as quickly as possible, and evacuation just unlocks all of the doors instantly. So this is, like I said before, pretty important because you obviously want to be able to have people leave when they need to leave. And like I said before, you can set up holiday schedules, etc. as well. So there's a couple of other physical level or hardware level controls as well. So Ubiquiti has a keyed emergency override. It's basically an NFC tag as well. And if someone tags into that, it will unlock all of the doors or lock all of the doors, depending on what you set the mode to. And you also have the ability to obviously back up power to a lot of these solutions. Ubiquiti have redundant power solutions that are basically in the form of a 1U rack device that can provide PoE power in case of emergency as well. If you want to compare the different starter kits, so these are the ones available. If you want to take notes of the model numbers, etc., you're more than welcome to take a picture of the screen. But basically, it comes down again to what you're trying to achieve. If you're just looking for something very basic to control a single door, the G2 starter kit is perfect for that. It comes with the reader, the hub, and the access cards. If you're looking for something a bit more advanced, like at the front of your building, the G2 starter kit Pro is the one to go for. Readers and hub, and then the access tags as well. And then obviously if you've got elevator solutions, they have a starter kit for that. And that's what it breaks down to. If you want to buy the readers, etc. separately, you can expand on your solutions, and they do come in both black and white options as well. A lot of customers will have a preference at the front of their building. Ubiquiti does both black and white options. So the G2 Reader Pro, probably the most advanced version, and if anything's going to get facial recognition, it's probably going to be a model of that, or at least a more advanced version of that. But basically, that's the top of the range one to go for. The G2 Reader, like I said before, just a normal NFC, or basically just a hand wave to open it up, and the G2 Reader Lite. Oh, sorry, not the G2 Reader. The Reader Lite obviously is a door control as well. Ubiquiti does the mag locks as well, so they do both a fail secure and fail safe version. So just to explain the difference between them, so it basically relates to what happens in case of a power outage. So I forget which way it's around, but basically if the power goes out, one of them will automatically unlock the door, whereas the other one will automatically lock the door. So one's basically a permanent magnet that locks if the power goes down, and the other one is an electromagnet that unlocks when the power goes down. So it depends on which door you're trying to set up. So for example, if you can think about what happens in a building, you want people to be able to still be able to move around in the building if the power goes down. So you unlock all the doors. but you don't want the front door to open up when the power goes down, because someone can just trip the power and then get access to your building. So things to think about. I'll speak honestly about the readers, or sorry, the mag locks here. Ubiquiti sell them. We don't import or distribute them in Australia. There's a very good reason for that. They are very expensive. So they are, the actual shipping and freight of these devices make them cost ineffective. It's nothing against Ubiquiti. Ubiquiti designed an awesome product with these things. And if you do have a specific request, we can still obviously get them. But it's just, if you go on Amazon or something like that, any normal mag lock will also suffice. And we generally recommend using those instead, just because they will be a lot more cost effective. If you want to go this way, you can do it as well. There's even strike lock options as well. Moving on a little bit, Ubiquiti recently introduced their intercom solutions as well. So intercoms is one of those places again where you typically have a lot of legacy systems, all these old readers and push buttons, etc., etc. And Ubiquiti have analyzed this and basically redesigned that entire solution. And that's what you're seeing right now. So they have new readers that are meant for outside access, and it even has, this reader that you're seeing right now even has a built-in floodlight as well. So the idea behind it is it's got a camera, it's got a nice big clear touch screen, it's got a button pad at the bottom, it's powered via PoE as you can see, and it ties back to any normal hub that we've talked about before. And with this, you can very easily get a directory of who's in the building and call through to that person. So each apartment basically has a viewer, and at the front door you have the reader. And you can set up access for the tenants as well. So tenants can go, okay, I want to see who's at the door. If someone rings through to them, they get a notification on their mobile phone, and they can see instantly whether they want to unlock or not. Again, similar to how we saw it with the access control systems, tap of a button and it unlocks the door for you. It's a nice tool for security. It's a nice tool to see, again, how people are coming and going, and to simplify that access method. If I was if I had this my apartment complex, I would be absolutely elated, because right now a big problem as a tenant is I can't go install a reader on my front door because typically I don't own the building. So having this integrated back is a nice, easy solution to do that. In terms of the actual readers, so I have two very simple ones. So one on the left is designed to go on the outside of the building, and the one on the right is the one that would go into your apartment. And as you can see, you can very easily just go live view, see who's at the door. You can see a call log of who's rung you when, and you can unlock the door from there as well. As a final couple of points, I just want to mention here that all of this is license free. So with other systems, you typically pay an ongoing license cost to get access to the latest firmware, etc. With Ubiquiti, all of this is just included with no license charge. You also get comprehensive security, especially as part of the networking side of things. And one thing I have to mention on the security front is that the databases are stored locally. It's stored on the local controller. So you don't have to worry about your authentication credentials sitting in Ubiquiti's cloud somewhere. It is stored locally. It's a single pane of glass, so regardless of whether you're managing an access point or an access control system, it's the same thing, same interface. You can do stuff like easy SD-WAN setup. So if you have multiple buildings that you're connecting together, you can do that as well. And there's full comprehensive support on these products as well. The other thing I want to say here is just the ease of deployment and ease of use. From a IT setup perspective, you can do the full setup through your mobile phone. From a use perspective, I can do all of the applications and everything I need to through my mobile phone as well. That to me is a massive benefit. It saves you time, it saves you setup tools. There's no special things that you need to do this. It's fully featured, and you get granular access control of this as well. It's a free app. Anyone could go download this and play around with it as well. And of course, I said security before. If you're tying this back to a Ubiquiti controller, then essentially that functionality that you're seeing on screen is the functionality that you get with it. I'm using the incorrect word here. So it's technically a controller, but it's basically a security gateway or cloud gateway. And I normally get questions around this, and that is, do I need to actually have one of these separate controllers or separate interfaces to actually manage the access control portion? And the answer to that is yes. So your components to the access control system would typically be this as the primary device for controlling your switches, access points, access control system, etc. These come in a couple of different flavors, all the way from a device the size of an Apple TV, all the way up to one RU or even a multi-RU fully fledged controller. It can handle hundreds of devices, depending on what you want to go for. This will tie back to your switches, access points, etc. And then on the access side of things, so the access control side of things, you would have the hub connecting through to the actual readers. And again, all the information here is stored locally. It's stored onto this device, so you don't have to worry about that data leaking anywhere. And that's pretty much it for the Ubiquiti Access Control products. It's a fairly simple product stack. They don't have a million different products, like I said before. They try to keep things simple, but you still get the benefits of all the security, etc. in there. Do we have any questions?
On the smaller hub, is there a backup battery control on there?
Speaking on a correction, I think it does not have it. Let me just go back to slides here. Let's see if it's shown in the. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Unfortunately, I can't remember whether it does or not. I think it's the battery backup power is reserved only for the larger enterprise variant, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, as an alternative to that, what you could potentially do as well is just have a backup to your switch. So just have a UPS on the switch, because the switch is ultimately going to be powering the hub through PoE. And if the switch is on backup power, you'll have backup power to the hub as well. Any other questions?
I've got a question.
Sure.
If you're doing just for a single door, and that door happens to have a mag lock that requires a bit more juice than the hub can provide, is there a way to inject power into that smaller hub to just get it to unlock those larger doors?
Not the hub itself. So what you would do with that instance is you'll have a separate power supply that goes to the actual mag lock, so normal 12 volts, let's say 5 amp or something like that. Yep. And then on the hub side of things, you would just basically use the dry contact. So it doesn't then output power as well. It's just used as the trigger for that mag lock to open and release. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's it.
Jordan.
Well, obviously, the condition is if you win, we've got to take a photo with Alex as well.
Okay, so let's look at who was lucky one. Stuart. Ah! Okie doke.
Over there, so I can take a photo. Is that okay, Stuart?
Right. With Alex in the back.
Yeah.
I should do a.
Go on. With Alex. All right, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, that's for the next session.
All right, thanks. So, Alex, we'll just get everyone around. If you want to have a 10-minute break, I guess.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex.